Hi everyone and welcome to another video. In this video we're gonna calculate if you can actually save money with lure painting, and we're starting right now. So the question is, can you save money with lure painting? There are extremely many variables to take in account. Because for example you can hand brush your lures or use spray cans to save money on the gear that you need for lure painting. And you can also make your own lures. And depending on the material and the gear that you use, it might be cheaper than using blanks. So in general, you can go really cheap on this. It really depends on how you want to do it, what your budget is, and how you want your lures to look. But in general, the cheaper you go, the more things you do yourself, the longer it takes to finish your lure or to get the finished product. But most people have a lot of other things to do as well. And at the end of the day, you also want to have some time left over to go fishing. So I'll be calculating the cost for a pretty standard setup for a beginner lure painting and for someone that has limited time for their hobbies. First of all, for lure painting, I always recommend to use an airbrush because it will give you the best results. So in order to use an airbrush, you need a compressor. A standard small and quiet air compressor costs about 100 euros. There are cheaper ones and a bit more expensive ones too, but to start off with a low budget compressor, that will work totally fine, and some of these have lasted for years. We also need an airbrush if we want to paint nice and even coats, create a professional looking lure. Sure, you can go very cheap on these. There are really cheap airbrushes out there on the market, but because an airbrush is not an easy tool, a cheap airbrush might cause you a lot of frustration and struggle as a beginner. That is why I recommend to buy at least an airbrush from a established and well-known brand with a price range about 100 to 150 euros. Now of course we also need paints. Here it depends on your budget and what patterns you want to paint. I will take a basic set of standard opaque colors, which on average costs 60 euros. You can go cheaper on these. Some brands sell smaller bottles and so make it cheaper per color, such as Vallejo, which only costs about 30 euros for 8 different basic colors. But I'm calculating this with 60 milliliters or 2-ounce bottles from Createx, because they are a bit more accessible for most people and are the most common used paint for lure painting. Now all we need are some blanks. Let's say we start off with about 20 lure blanks. That is plenty to begin with, and 20 lures to go fishing with, that's plenty as well. Again, you can go really cheap on these, but often the cheaper the lure, the lower the quality, and some might even not work. And I mean by that they don't even swim correctly or not swim at all. So I'll be taking an average price from my own web shop, which is about 5 euro per lure. That will be a total of 100 euros for all the blanks that we need. And of course, let's not forget a clear coat. We need to finish our lure somehow. And here you got a ton of options, but it also depends on where you live and what is available to you in your area. But on average, let's say we buy a 500 milliliter or 16-ounce bottle of clear coat for a 50 euros. Now you also need hooks, split rings, lure eyes and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not taking these into account since a lot of blanks come with eyes anyway, and split rings and hooks can be extremely cheap these days. Or you can just grab the old ones that you have on your old lures and just put them on your new lures. Now I want to calculate the price per lure so that we know if we're gonna make profit or make a loss on lure painting. But we cannot divide 20 lures over all the things that we bought, because most of the things will last way longer than only 20 lures. Only the 20 lure blanks last for 20 lures, if you know what I mean. Because with a bottle of paint, you can paint much more lures than only 20 pieces. We're gonna have to do a little bit of an estimation here to get an idea what it costs per lure. So for a cheap compressor, let's say it will last you easily a year. And in a year's time, you might be painting about 100 lures, let's say. So that results in only 1 euro per lure. Our airbrush, which is of a good quality, will last you a lifetime. That is no question about it. So you can easily paint 1000 lures with this before it will give out. So that results in a 15 cents per lure. With the 60 milliliter or 2-ounce bottles of paint, you can easily paint 200 lures. So if we say 200 lures with 60 milliliters of paint, that gives us a cost of 30 cents per lure. For the blanks, of course, the price will be the same. That will be 5 euro per blank. And with a 500 milliliter or 16 ounce bottle of clear coat, depending on the size of your lures and the amount of coats you want to apply, of course, let's say you can do about 100 lures, and that results in a 50 cents per lure. So if I add everything up right here, then we get the price or the cost per lure, which is €6.95, so almost €7. Of course, these prices are just an estimation because there are so many variables, and you can go really cheap on these. You can go cheaper on the paints. You can buy hobby paints and try to push those through an airbrush. You can go as cheap as you want in this. So I'm just giving an estimation with decent quality, with products that are meant to use for these things, and we're also using blanks. And on the other hand, you can also go much more expensive if you want better equipment from the start, or you want to use more expensive blanks, or you want a bigger assortment of paints. It's all up to you, of course. Now, what does a regular lure cost on the internet or in a store? I think we all can agree that on average a well-known established brand, a lure costs about €10, something like that. Of course, you can go again much higher on these. You got more expensive lures, and you also got way cheaper lures. But the big difference is also that your lure will be a custom painted lure. That's also a big difference. But this leads us to the answer of the question, which is yes, you can actually save money with painting lures, but in the long term. It's really important that you keep that in mind. It saves you money in the long term, but not in the short term. It's not that you can buy all the equipment, paint 10 lures, and then sell everything again, and that you made a profit or you saved money on those 10 lures, because that would not be the case. If you start taking lure painting as a hobby and you do it on the winter times or on the down periods or when fish are spawning and you're not able to fish, because in some countries it's illegal to fish while spawning time, and you can go lure painting, then that actually is gonna save you a little bit of money as long as you do it on the long term. But keep in mind, everybody, that lure painting is a hobby and you should enjoy it. As always, I will leave a link in the description down below. This will guide you to my web shop, and if you buy anything there, you will be supporting me and the channel. Have a nice day and see you next time. Bye bye!